Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending upon where you're located here this morning. I am Janice Hurley, and I am the General Manager of Bmb Finder, and am delighted that you are spending some time with me here to learn more about the new Bmb Finder, some of the things that we've been working on, and just getting an update from some of the topics that I've been presenting at some of the conferences that I've recently been to. I was just at CABI at the end of last week out in California, of course the PI conference before that, and now the AIHP conference at the end of this month. Of course, next year we'll be joining our national associations together and coming together as ALP. So that is going to be great for all of us. So I am going to get ready here to show my screen so y'all can see my presentation. And a couple of things, just some housekeeping notes before I get started. On your screen there, you'll see that there's a spot for questions. So we have several properties that are attending today. So everyone is on mute. So please feel free to put in questions as I go along. I'll do a Q&A at the end as time permits. And if there are things that I need to reach out to you after, I will be doing that as well. We are recording today's session, so I will send you a copy of it after, and so you don't feel like you have to take a bunch of notes while you're going along. And I'll also send a copy of the presentation as well. So a little bit about myself for those of you who I haven't met along the way. I've been in the business since about 2002 and started at bnbfinder.com, and I was there through the transition into HomeAway and to the acquisition of HomeAway through Expedia. And in between that, I went up to Vermont for about 2 years and ran an inn up there, the Inn at the Round Barn Farm, 12-room inn and event center. We did about 30 weddings a year, and it was the hardest I have ever worked in my life. And I can say, you know, after being in the industry for all those years, I thought that I knew what all of you do, and until I actually did it, I had such a greater appreciation for everything that you do and bring to the industry. So thank you for that. And I am going to tell the story and share with you how Bmb Finder came about and how we got involved and where we're headed. So a couple of things, you know, that I like to just touch on before I start any presentation is that, you know, if you ask me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if I could tell you where we would be as a B&B industry and where we are today, you know, of course, there is the evolution of travel and things are going to change. But I think it's been fascinating for me to watch, you know, the rise of directories and then the influx of OTAs and the confusion brought in by Airbnb and what a real professional B&B experience is, and then circling back around to what we're in now, which is the book direct movement. And that really was started by hotels that had been fed up with, you know, being essentially forced to pay commissions on all of their bookings because that was the way that they were getting the majority of their reservations. So as I looked into what was happening, and after I left working for bnbfinder.com under Expedia, for a few months I was consulting with a PMS company, and I attended the PI conference last year, and it was so clear to me that there was a missing link, that hotels had ways to drive more direct bookings. But with bnbfinder.com making the changes that it did, a lot of properties had found themselves without a real solution or answer to getting direct bookings. So as we go through today, we're going to talk about a few things. And, you know, I saw this quote before I presented at the PI conference, and I just thought it was so fitting. And I read it a little bit differently. I read it, a successful human is one who can lay a firm foundation with the bricks others have thrown at them. And the fact is, we could have never anticipated all of these different things that are being thrown at us and all the different things that you have to juggle as you're running your property. And certainly, there's not one innkeeper, well, there was one actually in California who said that he likes cleaning toilets, but I've always said, you know, innkeepers would rather clean a toilet than deal with, you know, internet marketing, and it's true. And it just continues to get more complicated and more involved. So I think before we look forward, it's always good for us to take a chance to look back. And, you know, amazing, but it really wasn't that long ago that innkeepers didn't need to say they, wanted to be on the internet, even though thought they needed it, and that they had 800 numbers that they were using. And of course, back then, only the reviews that mattered came from guidebooks like Sandy Soul, who actually is my mentor, and she wrote the first guidebooks for B&Bs. That's how bnbfinder.com started, and Bernice Chesler. And just to give you a sense, as you're looking at Bmb Finder today, this of course is not what it looks like today. This is 20 years ago when Bmb Finder started, because Bmb Finder started right around the same time that bnbfinder.com did. And Bmb Finder was primarily run solely by a woman named Mary White, who is an advocate for the industry, an incredible woman, and she had some health issues come up, and that's when we had talked to her about carrying on her legacy with Bmb Finder and really making sure that we can create the best experience and the #1 source for travelers to go to find B&Bs. So when we went through and we first designed the site, that was a screen image, there were things that we had to think about, because yes, there are other sites that you can list on, but what we continue to have a challenge with is no matter how far we've come in the industry, there's still the confusion around what a professional bed and breakfast is. And I use this example because a friend of mine was out in California, musician here from Austin, and he had called me and said, I'm staying at this amazing hotel, and started to describe it to me. And as I'm listening, I was like, this doesn't sound like a hotel. And I asked him what property it was, and he told me it was the McCallum House. And I quickly corrected him and said, you're staying at a bed and breakfast. And he's like, no, I've never stayed at a bed and breakfast before. So every time something like that happens, it reminds me of the opportunity that we have to share the unique experiences that you deliver to your guests, and how we really elevate our category in the lodging industry, in the travel industry. So Airbnb comes up in a lot of topics when we talk about professional B&Bs, and I've been going through this for years with properties, and properties have started to adopt it a little bit more. And I always say, I wouldn't just send you to one marketing channel. You need to try different channels and see what works for your property, because your marketing should truly be as unique as your inn. And so Airbnb has made some changes, and they have added a B&B checkbox, but a couple of things. This is a search that I did in Austin recently, and the second result there, after I checked the checkbox to say I'm looking for bed and breakfast, was room to crash your head. And I was surprised, because this is something that we may have seen when the site first launched, and things that we had joked about in the B&B industry and said, oh yes, this clearly isn't a bed and breakfast. But this is such a great example of why the traveler continues to be confused, because there are sites, and it's not just Airbnb, and they are definitely trying to do a much better job at making sure that they're showing professionally run B&Bs. But this was another listing that I had found, and I had to put it up here because I just laughed that it says private room and a bed and breakfast, and you get a Texas twist with a car and driver. And sure enough, this was the first photo listed, and clearly with your B&B quote unquote experience, Frank the car guy comes with it. So when I see these things, they just fuel my passion and get me excited about the opportunities that we have to be able to share your stories and to be able to directly connect you with guests. So we're going to talk a little bit about where we are now and Bmb Finder and a few things. So when we had the opportunity to acquire the business, many of you may be familiar with Eric Goldreyer. He was the former founder of bnbfinder.com. And one of the things, I've always stayed in close contact with him, and he's always had a passion about the B&B industry. Right after he sold bnbfinder.com, he actually went and bought an inn just south of Austin in Kyle, Texas, called, at that time it was the Inn above Onion Creek, now it's called Sage Hill Inn. And so he's been in the industry essentially even ever since he sold BBCom. And his second passion lies in education. So he's heavily involved in a company that's run out of Fort Collins, Colorado, called Bulb, and it's an educational platform for students to create a portfolio throughout their education. And so as we started to discuss Bmb Finder, we said, okay, we really need to come up with commitments that we're going to make to the industry, things that we learned from bnbfinder.com, and things that we want to make sure that we nail and do 100% right in launching Bmb Finder. So the first commitment was to build a team of industry experts that understand your needs. Myself, I'm going to share some of the other folks here in the next slide. Deliver a new industry-leading brand website, which is what we did. We acquired the business, again, April last year, quickly realized that the platform that it was built on, which was WordPress, wasn't going to be able to support the first-class experience that we wanted to create. So we immediately invested in building a development team, and they started working on building the new website. And that actually launched at the end of October 2019, which is record time to be able to build a directory and to launch it on the newest technology. And when they launched it, we had everything that we needed, for the basic launch, and we are continuing to make improvements. So anyone who was previously a member of Bmb Finder and may have started to see their traffic dropping, part of that reason was because of the platform that it was built on. And now that we've got it built on the new interface, we are building up the content, adding more members, pushing more travelers to the site. So you're going to see a lot of these updates and changes and improvements to the site as we continue to grow. Also creating a new gift certificate interface, which is something that we're working on to come in the end of Q1, probably beginning of Q2. And this will greatly increase the exposure to travelers. Mary had the gift card program since she started 20 years ago. Commission is 15% only on the cost of the gift card. And what we also said that we would make a commitment to is not discounting the cards. So anyone who was previously a member of bnbfinder.com remembers that we had sold the cards in Costco and several other places. So it went from being a card that would generate a new traveler to your inn to being one that they would purchase to get a discount because they could get, $100 and only pay $75 or whatever it was. So we have committed that we will not discount our cards. And we are working right now to provide ACH payment to properties who participate. So that way you'll be able to get more quickly paid on your redemptions and constantly looking for ways to improve that program. And we're also committed to providing you a place that your property has the ability for travelers to easily book with you and for you to maintain that guest relationship. Bmb Finder never wants to own the relationship with the guest. It's your guest and you need to have that relationship. So we will never be an OTA. We never have, plans to do that because it doesn't make sense. We are a direct booking site that are going to send all the travelers to your website and to your booking engine. And I'll show you some of that here in a minute. And also, one thing that I think is extremely important in talking about Eric and purchasing Bmb Finder is that he is dedicated to keeping this business a family-owned business. There are no plans to ever sell or have it be something that is owned by anyone else besides Eric and his family. It's something he wants to pass down to his children and to continue the legacy really of Mary and continue the legacy of carrying on direct bookings to properties. So in addition to myself being a member of the team, we have Sarah Schuster, who joined us. Of course, she was at bnbfinder.com for over 8 years. She had previously been at Expedia. Tim Wilson, who I worked with at bnb.com from when I started all those years ago. He's been in the business for over 20 years. He was bnbfinder.com, went over to Whitestone Marketing, and Tim heads up our Diamond Collection program. And that was something that when Expedia took over bnbfinder.com, at the time we had over 500 properties that participated in the Diamond Collection. And after Expedia made the changes, if you want to be listed on bnbfinder.com now, you can, but you have to sign up through Expedia, and then they feed your listing over to BBCom. And a lot of the feedback that I've gotten from innkeepers is since they made those changes, And from Diamond Collection members, of course, they lost their branding. So they had invested in the brand and then they had lost that when they made that transition. And also when you're listed on there, on the city research results pages, you can have hundreds of properties that are hotels and vacation rentals mixed in with bed and breakfast. So it's been a lot harder for B&Bs on bnbfinder.com to convert those reservations. So that's part of the changes. So when we looked at designing Bmb Finder, it was clear that there was a need to have the Diamond Collection, and for properties who had invested in that for all of those years to be able to maintain that branding as a Bmb Finder Diamond Collection member. So Tim heads that up for us as well. We also have added some additional account managers that are going to be starting here this week, and we're excited to introduce them to you. We'll be sending out a member email with some updates on that as well. So let's take a tour of the new Bmb Finder just to give you a sense of what it looks like and how it's laid out and how membership works. And this is great whether you are currently a member to understand how you're getting additional benefit if you haven't renewed yet, or if you are becoming a member. So a couple things. If you were a member previously, this is what your listing looked like. So it was really text heavy. You think of a traveler coming in here to book a reservation, and of course the 3 rules of marketing are people don't read, people don't read, people don't read. So you need more photos, more photos, more photos. So we really, when we were looking at designing the pages, wanted to go photo first. And of course text is important, but we wanted to be really conscious of that. And the other thing that we wanted to talk about was the size of the listings, because you might remember at BBCom and of course on other directories, when you purchase a listing, it's very much like the site was listed before, where the properties would just be listed and they would rotate within membership level. So we discussed doing something different, and we have actually gone in and adjusted the sizes of these ads, so you'll see them look a little bit different, and we did that so that we could accommodate photos in a better experience. But the Diamond Collection has the largest ad space on the page. Platinum is below that, gold below platinum and about half the size of platinum, and then silver is below that, which is half the size of a gold listing. And the way that it works is still the same. You rotate within membership level. So depending on where your property is located, you know, I get asked, innkeepers are like, well, what should I do? Should I get the highest membership level? Should I just go with silver? And it really is about what you have to compete with in your area. And what I like to point out, because it's essential, is of course when a guest goes in and they're making a search, here's an example of Missouri with the platinum member and then gold members below that. It's important to understand that the way that we designed Bmb Finder was designed on something called a geospatial search. And the reason why we chose that is because, again, something that we learned from our past is, you might remember previously you had to list in your primary city. So I use Austin as an example. So if I have Eric's property and my property is physically located in Kyle, which you can see just down south of Austin on I-35, but he wants to draw from the Austin market, he would previously have to buy a full listing in his primary city. And if he wanted to show in additional cities, he would have to pay half of what his membership cost was to get that additional exposure. So when we designed Bmb Finder, we made the decision, we don't want properties to have to pay more to get more exposure on more searches, because again, it's our sole goal to send you as many travelers as we can and get you as much exposure as possible. So really the decision you make is what size ad you want to show in those searches. And then we're going to drive you in searches that are all around your area. So you won't just show up in your primary city. You will show up in nearby searches. So I think this is just a fantastic improvement from the way that we were previously doing memberships, and certainly a way to save you money and to get you more exposure. So this is an example of how the listings look today. Of course, I couldn't fit it all in here, but I thought this was a great example. Blair House Inn property here in Texas, in Wimberley, and a beautiful property. And you can see here, the guests from the search page have the ability, of course, to click out to your website. So you have a link on the search page. I didn't actually show that to you because I didn't hover over, but when you hover over on the listings on the left, you'll see that there are links up where they can go to your listing, go out to your website. Certainly when you're on your listing here, there's the book direct button that goes to your booking engine on your website. They can email you from here, they can click to call, and of course, view your website. And we also wanted to make sure that out of the gate, we were really selling the experience and selling you as part of the experience. Now, I've had innkeepers who say, or owners that said, well, I don't, put my photo up, and that's fine. If you don't share that for whatever reason, some properties, like properties I just worked with in California, they have staff. They have multiple properties, and innkeepers move from property to property. So for them, they didn't want to, have one consistent innkeeper on there because they're not sure which innkeeper will be at what property. So what I suggested to them, they were a member of CABI, which is the California Bed and Breakfast Association. So I said, why don't you put the CABI logo instead of your picture, and then underneath in the description, write, how you are proud members of the California Bmb Association since blah, 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 and use that space for that. You could also use it if you're a food forward business property and you want to make sure that you're selling the culinary experience. You might put a picture of the chef or whatever you would like to put in that space. You can certainly highlight there. In addition to that, we are 100% focused on growing more awareness through our social media channels. So we are releasing, I highly suggest that you go on to Instagram, Facebook. You can see all of the social icons at the bottom of our page, and join those, because the amount of content that we're putting out on a weekly basis is huge. And part of the thought behind this, when we first acquired the business, the last post, hadn't been for over a year, and we want to start to build up that awareness that we had at BBCom. We've been working with Liz Hamilton and Marty Main, and putting out blog posts, and blog posts right now are primarily focused on Diamond Collection members, and getting out stories about their inns and about the innkeepers. And then of course we always do stories, for general travelers. One other thing I want to mention that I didn't mention about your listings is that you also have the ability, if you are a gold member or above, to add links to your social media channels. So again, that's something we wouldn't have done before because we wanted to keep guests on the site to book on the site. But because we are strictly about booking direct, we want to get them out on your social media channels, on your website, etc. So here's an example from a post that we had done for the Inn at Tabbs Creek. This is on our Instagram page that we had put out there. So everything that we're posting is about the B&B, about the experience, not just about the destination. We want to sell what you are providing to your guests and what a lot of guests just aren't familiar with. So if you go to our homepage, this is a screenshot that I took back in October, but if you go to our homepage today, you'll see several of the blogs that have been written that are traveler focused and property focused. So some other things that we'll do is, of course, we'll share any topics that we're going to present, but we also have a great relationship with the Wheel of Fortune. And this is a relationship that I started, Marty Main actually started it back in 2006. And I have nurtured this relationship my entire career and have become really close with the promotions team and everybody at the show. And so if you are a member of Bmb Finder and you have video, you are more than welcome to participate and submit yourself to be considered as a property on the Wheel of Fortune. And all you commit to is a 6-night, 7-day stay if someone wins. And what I love about this, and what I have loved about it for years, is that the show constantly comes to me and says, Janice, we've got this theme week coming up and our contestants are from X. So if you can find us a B&B within this theme, within these states, we can get them included in the show. And it's an incredible amount of exposure. It costs you no additional money. And I'm telling you, I've been doing this for so long now. Every time a property is featured, they have guests from other parts of the country call and say, I saw you on Wheel of Fortune. I would love to come and stay with you. There was a property in Seattle, Three Tree Point, that we had featured, and a guest in Pennsylvania had actually written a TripAdvisor review about how they saw them on the Wheel of Fortune and had to go and stay there on their next trip to Seattle. So, you know, we're talking someone in Pennsylvania staying at a B&B in Seattle just because of this exposure. So it's huge. I highly recommend you take advantage of it. If a guest wins, they submit 4 different weeks that they can stay. So if you get them and those 4 weeks don't work for you, you can request them to submit 4 more. So you really make it something that works for you. Bmb Finder provides additional prize package items. We provide round trip airfare for them, and we'll work with you to create some different value adds as well. So as far as membership and how it works, you can sign up either paying monthly or annually, completely your choice. I always suggest to properties to pay annually, and no, it's not just because, you know, it's more money for the business, it's because you're actually saving money. So when you pay annually, the charges are $3.99 for silver, $4.99 for gold, $9.99 for platinum, and $29.99 for diamond. So, you know, of course, when you take that monthly price and times it times 12, it can be anywhere from 15 to 17% more that you're paying over the course of the year if you choose monthly. So monthly's great if you're tight on cash and you just want to get a listing up, great. But I recommend, you know, of course, always going in and signing up for annual for that savings. In addition to that, we currently have a promotion running and where you can get 20% off. So that goes for either your monthly or your annual. And if you sign up for annual, you also get 3 months for free. So when you look at what you're paying effectively, when you pay at that annual rate, you're getting the savings because you're not paying more for that monthly rate, and you're getting 3 months for free and 20% off. And if I can give any other recommendations on membership levels, when I work with properties, when I'm at conferences, I always recommend look at what you have for competition in the area. But when you look at the difference between silver and gold and the cost, it's only $100 more a year. And of course, when you get that, you know, upgrade your membership level and you get the 20% off, it's even less. And when you go to the gold level, you have that ability to put in your social links, and it's a great way to get more exposure and for such a little cost when you break it out over the year. So a couple other things I want to mention on the membership before I move forward, because it is essential for you to understand that before we move into talking about data and how to measure the performance of your listings. When we decided to launch Bmb Finder, we discussed a money back guarantee. And previously at bedandbreakfast.com, we had a 90-day guarantee. So if you were not happy within 90 days, you could get your money back. Well, that worked, but it didn't work for properties who were seasonal, because they said, okay, well, I'm signing up, but I know I'm not going to get any bookings, so now I'm going to wait 3 months to sign up. And Eric completely understands and is so confident in the team and what we're building here. He said, you know what, we're going to do 100% money back guarantee for the first year. And this is unprecedented because there is not another marketing channel. If there is, contact me and let me know, because I have never found one that says within 12 months, if you aren't happy with the return that you've gotten, we will give you back what you paid us when you signed up for membership. So properties who first sign up say, okay, you know, they're looking at their traffic and they're saying, oh, you know, what's it going to be in 12 months? They're trying to estimate. Knowing that you have that guarantee, we are confident we are going to deliver the value of what you've invested within those 12 months. And you are still, you know, you still have that guarantee no matter what. So that being said, this is one of my favorite quotes of all time. I've used this for years now because, and I'm sure you can relate to this, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half. And I think the best part of this is that John Wanamaker was a store merchant back in the 1800s. And, he knew that he was spending money, but he didn't know from where. We don't have an excuse anymore because we have tools where we can measure that. And we have talked about return on investment. I found this old newsletter from bedandbreakfast.com, October 2008, where we put out an article about return on investment and why it's important to track what you're putting into your marketing and what you're getting out of it. So it is still my mission and a mission of many of the consultants in the industry, the web designers, to make sure no matter what you're doing with your marketing, that you implement Google Analytics and you implement it correctly. Because whenever I do a poll and I say, how many of you have Google Analytics? Maybe half of the room puts their hand up, which the other half needs to get in the game. But then I say, keep your hand up. And when I say, okay, how many of you understand how to read it and know that it's working properly, at least half of those hands go down. So it means we have a lot more work to do. So it's very frustrating for me because I want you to know what you're spending and what you're getting back. So there are tons of articles that you can read, of course, how to use Google Analytics, but I definitely recommend you contacting your webmaster if they have it set up for you, asking them for a report, asking for them to go through it with you, and understanding how all of that works. If you're investing in AdWords through Google, making sure you're including that into your overall return of how your marketing is performing. And something that we want to make sure, we're getting ready to send an email out to all of our members and our non-members to really encourage you to get involved in the Book Direct movement. And this is the movement that's specific to our industry, specific to B&Bs and inns and privately owned lodging. And this was started by AIHP and PI, which were the two national associations, which have now merged into one, and Lisa from Acorn, and also working with other consultants and web designers in the industry. And they put this together, because they saw the need for us to come together as an industry, because we have a much louder and stronger and powerful collective voice if we are working together and getting more inns engaged in some of the different things that are happening that are affecting you from getting direct bookings. And one of the most recent and most important ones was when Google had made the changes to their to the way that they displayed Google Hotel ads. And we are going to be hosting a webinar. I will send all of you an email on it. Lisa from Acorn, I just confirmed it this morning, is going to present for us. I believe it's on March 5th. And she's going to talk specifically about some of these topics and about the Book Direct movement and how you can get involved. But what I was so impressed with was when they decided that they were going to have a congressional hearing for small businesses, and they reached out to Allison Cavaretta, who is an innkeeper, I think third or fourth generation from Maine. And Allison had agreed to go and provide testimony for the congressional hearing. And you can actually watch it at that link that's provided there. I recommend that you do. And it was great that we could have one voice out there, but we also said, we need to be able to share stories of other innkeepers and provide that documentation to the small business group in Congress that was listening to the hearings. And so Lisa and Pi and AIHP put together a petition. And what was unbelievable was that they collected over 900 signatures and over 300 personal comments within, I think it was 4 days or 5 days, something unbelievable. And what this made me think about is the power and the opportunity that we really have to make a difference, because the changes that were made on Google are not advantageous to B&Bs getting direct bookings. There is that Book Now button that the majority of travelers don't know where they're booking. They think they're booking with you, but they could be booking with an OTA or another site. And I was talking to this group and I told them that I had recently reached out to all the associations in the industry. So I identified 73 associations, whether they're state, regional, national. And of those 73, if you could guess how many inns participate or are members of those associations, I identified about 1,700 properties. So what that tells me is that we've got a lot of work to do to engage more properties, to really get back to our grassroots efforts of coming together, because it's things like these congressional hearings and changing different legislature that comes up. And we really need to have larger numbers and larger groups coming together to have a voice. So if you haven't been to the Book Direct, it's bookdirecteducation.com. When you go on, you can sign up for their newsletter. They keep you up to date on everything that they're doing, and it's really great to get that information. So these are all the key takeaways. Again, I'm going to just send this to you in a presentation form, and of course, I will send you the recorded session as well. And feel free to reach out to me at any time. This is my direct phone number. This is my email address. Whether it's questions about Bmb Finder, just questions about your inn, anything that I can share from my experience at the Round Barn or my experience in the industry for all these years, I'm happy to share. You know, the knowledge I have is only as good as the people I share it with. So please reach out, and I cannot thank you enough for everything that you do for the industry, because truly, from the bottom of my heart and the hearts of everyone at Bmb Finder, if it wasn't for you and everything that you do to create that experience for the guest, we would not have the industry that we have. So thank you so much for everything. And if you have additional questions, if there's anything that I can answer, please let me know. If there's anything you need answered now and you had submitted it into that questions box, I don't see anything right now that's shown up. So I guess we can complete the webinar today, as I'll be sending out the recording, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. And if you're currently a member, thank you so much for your membership. And if you have yet to join, we cannot wait to welcome you to the Bmb Finder family. So have a great afternoon, and we'll speak with you soon.